You're listening to another episode of Mr. Allard's Neighborhood. This is the place where you're entitled to Brad's opinion. And now for your host, Brad Allard.
Well, my vast listening audience, you're in luck today. You don't just have one Allard, but you're going to have two Allards on the show to give them the hot sports opinions. I don't see him on the screen, Taylor. There he is. Okay, there's my cousin Rusty Allard, the king of Kiowa County, the Duke of
Yeah, you're
Southwest
gonna get me in trouble
Oklahoma.
with that.
Yeah, I know. Am I really? Okay. Anyway, I brought him on because
Everybody
he
knows it's
is.
not true.
Yeah, he's a producer of cattle and agricultural products and commodities, and has been all his life. He's been involved in the financing end of it and the production end of it, so he knows it very well. And we're talking about today about why are food prices rising so high and what's causing that. And it's a whole lot more than just what's happening in the Ukraine. What gets to me a little bit, and gets to Rusty too, I bet, is this idea that everything was going great, and all of a sudden Putin does this, and everything's going to hell in a handbasket. Whereas down on the farm, as this title is, things have been tough for a long, long time. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, they have been. It's been several administrations, and it just seems to get worse and worse and worse.
Yeah. So it is a bipartisan problem. It isn't we're going to dump on Biden, even though we might do a little dumping. I mean, but there also but there's also previous administrations, Republican and Democrat, have contributed to this problem. And we're going to talk about all those
Yes.
things. I am going to be referring a lot to this New York Times article that I read Tuesday, which sparked my wanted to do the show. And so I called Rusty and I said, hey, we need to talk about this. And I wanted somebody that knows what they're talking about, as opposed to somebody who tenderfoot like myself, who can, spend a few summers as a kid on the farm, or come up there and maybe sit a few hours on a tractor and things. He knows it all. But anyway, before we jump into all the fun, let's talk about our sponsors make all this possible. Thank you, CrossFit Burleson. Daniel, I hope you're doing well. As always, CrossFitBurleson.com is where you can find out all about the fitness programs, the training programs, things of that nature. Throw some iron around, have a good time. It's also a good place to not just build muscles, but also to relax, to get off your stress. And so, anyway, by the way, before I go any further, Sherry Stepscott is on watching this. She's one of my most faithful watchers, and I appreciate her. A couple of the blessing boxes need some attention, guys. There's a few blessing boxes, and also, there's a lot of need for this, a lot of use for it. So the one on One Stop, and I believe the one by the library, could use a little attention. So I just want to make sure that's on there. Okay, back to the ads. All right. Thank you to paying customers here, CrossFit Burleson, 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check it out. You'll be glad you did. Also, Shandy Stocksville Realty Group. Home prices are rising here pretty quickly, so you really definitely want to get involved with a real estate agent that knows what she's talking about, and it'll have your concerns at heart. So you want to deal with that with her, and she can also help you with the financing with her husband, Ron. Also, thank you to Rex, mayor of Eagan. Eagan is the only town I know of that's smaller than Roosevelt. Rusty, how many people live in Roosevelt?
We just exist. We don't live here.
You don't live here. Well, how many people
exist
out there?
in Hobart? I mean, exist. But there are about 220 people in Roosevelt.
Yeah,
6,000 in the whole county.
Yeah. Well, that's a large county too. This isn't some small county. Geographically, it's pretty decent sized county. So we're talking about
about 40 miles.
Now, but Eagan has 28 people in it. So anyway, he's the mayor of Eagan. I digress. So I need to get back on attention. Anyway, Russell Wealth Group can help you out with your financial situations. He can help you out with your 401ks, with your retirement, all the above. The market's going up and down, up and down. It's chaotic. You need somebody with a little experience, a little guiding hand, whatnot, to help you through this. So call Rex, hit the myfinancialbox.com link, and you'll have an introductory video, and you'll be good to go. Also, thank you to Optavia, Kimmy Etheridge, 817-789-1622 with the weight loss and maintenance lifestyle plans. Several people in the group there, the BNI networking group here in Burleson, are using our services, and they swear by it, because they're saying a lot of the people say that it's weight loss without a lot of pain. So it's a really good program. Also, Southern Gym, her big push is Easter and Mother's Day over at Southern Gym Jewelry. Get your sweetheart, wife, mother, or whoever. Uh, uh, Nice piece of jewelry from Southern Gem. She also does cleaning, she does design, she does repairs, she does the whole thing. It's on the top floor of the Windmiller building and the third floor. So go over there and see her for something for Easter, for Mother's Day, or also you got a lot of June weddings coming up. So and graduation gifts. There's a lot of opportunity. Also, Michelle Humphrey at Hot Works. Yesterday I went by her place, the little sponsor care, if you will. It's a very nice outfit and it's secure too. So, you have to have a code to get in or they'll let you in. So it's a very secure place. They got all these different programs with infrared and Pilates and aerobics and Peloton type stuff and all this business with a infrared system to help accelerate the workout. So it's a really a good place. And I went in there to visit and I saw 2 or 3 people I knew. So it's kind of a nice place to be. Anyway, all right, let's talk from the beginning. Let's talk about this article, Russell. All right, and this is not going to be news to you, but it was news to me, I guess, because the article put it in perspective. I'm going to read portions of it off. It says the crucial portion of the world's wheat, corn and barley is trapped in Russia and Ukraine because of the war, while an even larger portion of the world's fertilizer is stuck in Russia and Belarus. The result is that global food and fertilizer prices are soaring. Since the invasion last month, wheat prices have increased 21%, barley by 33%, and some fertilizers by 40%. Couple of questions. Before the show, you told me that wheat was $9 a bushel, right?
That is correct.
What is it normally?
Here in Southwest Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Oh, it's been running $4 to $6.
Okay, so it's
for a long, long time.
right. So it's gone up.
So it's damn near doubled.
Yeah, and
4
that's
to 9. Yeah.
yeah, and so part of it is, I think I'll get the rest of the article is that people might think, wow, the price of wheat per bushel is doubled. You must be making double the money, and that's totally untrue, right?
Well, first of all, you got to have something to sell,
Right, and that's
and
I
we're
think.
just now coming out of we're just coming out of winter dormancy, and
Hmm.
obviously we've already most people. I mean,
Hmm.
you can't say all and none, but
Hmm.
most people have sold their crop to pay last year's bills, and
Hmm.
we're coming out of winter dormancy, or we're extremely dry. Of course, we're always dry here, but we're even worse now.
Hmm.
And we will be cutting wheat in June and July, so that's the wheat that we've got. Of course, you can always pre contract and
Hmm.
get the $9 and lock it in, but then you've got to deliver it. And as the farmers myself say, I sell wheat for 9 and it stays dry, and we do harvesting, it goes to 12. If I have contracted it at 9,
Hmm.
then I got to buy a $12 wheat to pay back the $9 contract. So that's not
Right.
a real good place to be in. So we have not yet received the benefits of the price yet. While fertilizer, you said the Times Armour said is up 30,
Hmm.
40%.
Hmm.
Price of fertilizer has doubled and tripled in some places.
Yeah.
Last fall, the nitrogen fertilizer, and there's all kinds of different ones. So
Hmm.
I'll just say nitrogen fertilizer is running around $300 to $400 a ton.
Hmm.
And the last time I looked, it was 900 a ton.
Mm.
We usually put around 100 pounds of material per acre. So you're looking at easily $45 an acre. This for the nitrogen for a minimum amount to make your crop.
Yeah,
So
and and
that's the issues that we're dealing with.
and without fertilizer, the harvests are considerably smaller. Okay. Um,
That's right.
yeah.
Fertilizer, you can raise a crop, but fertilizer is a yield booster.
Hmm.
And right now, the last time I looked, we have about 35 today supply of wheat in the world. Meaning
Hmm.
if we don't get another bushel made in 35 days, we'll be out of wheat. Now
Well.
that's not as dire as it sounds, because somewhere in the world somebody is harvesting wheat all the time. But as those supplies get tight or less because of drought, war, et cetera, then you're going to continue to see prices increase.
Well, this article talks
But
about
if you're
that.
going to sell,
Mm.
mhm,
I want to read a couple of sections which is exactly what you're talking about. Ukrainian farms are about to miss critical planting and harvesting seasons. So we're not just talking about this year's harvest. We're talking about next year's harvest is going to be very much in jeopardy because they're not going to be able to work the fields. It isn't like grain grows on its own. So because they're not going to be able to
listen,
plant, there won't be a harvest. So this is going to be extended. Also,
The deal
Europe.
about the Ukraine too that
Yeah.
nobody talks about Ukraine is it is extremely fertile area.
Mm-hmm.
People do not realize how fertile the Ukraine area is. This is similar country and weather and soil type and fertility like the mid corn belt around Iowa,
Mm-hmm.
Illinois, where they make 200 and 300 bushels of corn. So this
Mm-hmm.
is a very productive area. That another
Mm-hmm.
reason it infects it.
What?
So
All right, I continue here. European fertilizer plants are significantly cutting production because of high energy prices. Farmers from Brazil to Texas are cutting back on fertilizer, threatening the size of the next harvest. China facing its worst wheat crop in decades. So I'll reread that because I kind of stumbled it. China's facing its worst wheat crop in decades after severe flooding and is planning on buying much more of the world's dwindling supply. And India, which normally exports a small amount of wheat, has already seen foreign demand for more than triple compared to last year. So the normal world producers are having their own problems that are apart from Ukraine. And the thing is,
yes, and
go
and the
ahead.
problem another problem with China is besides the
Hmm.
weather is being a
Hmm.
central planned government. They're not
Hmm.
always the greatest to make good long term sound decisions. So
Hmm.
they are hurting for protein for their people, and they want to feed their people so they don't come after them.
Yeah, and also it talks about the fact that this article says if you wanted to pick two countries that are the would be the have the worst impact on what we're talking about to go to war with each other, it'd be Russia and Ukraine. Part of this article has a
Yes.
listing of the world's exporters of grain. Russia is number one, and Ukraine was number five, and and they put together. I'll just read what it says. For the global food market, there are a few worse countries to be in conflict than Russia and Ukraine. Over the past 5 years, they together accounted for nearly 30% of the exports of the world's wheat, 17% of corn, 32% of barley, which is a crucial source of animal feed, and 75% of sunflower seed oil, an important cooking oil in parts of the world. So this is going to be a long term problem. All right. It isn't like
Yeah, and
we.
let me tell you,
Okay, go ahead.
let me give you some economics that maybe kind of clear, maybe
Yeah,
make
go
people
ahead, please.
help people understand.
Uh huh.
You know, there's a huge hog industry in the East Coast, South
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, North Carolina. There's lots of hogs there.
Mm-hmm.
They don't raise much grain in that area. And you say, well, then why are they raising hogs with that where you can't get grain? Well, the issue is
Mm-hmm.
those all depend on the Ukraine and Russia's wheat to feed their hogs on the East Coast of the United States because you can ship grain cheaper on a ship from
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine to Charlotte then you can haul it from Iowa to Charlotte.
Right.
Now I know that sounds nuts, but that is the issue. So the you've got a whole huge industry of hog feeders that depend on that and are there now. So not only is that grain shut down, now those hog feeders are going to have to import higher grain from the middle of the United States. So that's
Mm-hmm.
that's how the world trade affects things. You don't think about that you can load it in the Black Sea and bring it to Charlotte, North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, that quicker, they're easier, cheaper, and a lot and substantially cheaper than you can haul it from Des Moines, Iowa
Mm-hmm.
to Charlotte.
And
So that's
that is
that's just an example.
right, and it is amazing that it's cheaper to import it. You know, a lot of people say, "Well, we should be totally self-sufficient." Well, if we were in this particular this area, we'd already be experiencing higher pork and beef prices than already. But I I had a show about sometime last week. I think it was last Tuesday. We talked about energy prices, and it's the same thing. It's cheaper for the New England consumers to buy foreign oil than it is to buy our own oil because it's too expensive to ship up there, and we don't have to
Well,
pipeline it.
and
All this.
fertilizer, nitrogen fertilizer, a lot of it comes from natural gas.
Mm-hmm.
So if you don't have the pipelines to both
Mm-hmm.
heat people's home plus get it to the natural gas plants to make fertilizer, you're going to have a shortage.
Well, here's something.
So
You may be aware of this.
that's another deal why those pipelines come in
Yeah.
there. The pipelines, they're to carry the gas to get it to the
Uh-huh.
fertilizer plants. Now, we get about 25% or did get about 25% of our fertilizer needs from Russia because of the natural gas. They
Well,
can
here,
turn it, they can turn
are
it
you
into natural
aware?
gas.
Are you aware that just this morning Joe Biden has agreed with the European Union to ship 15 billion cubic feet of natural gas to the European Union?
Yes.
You heard it. So you already heard that. I just saw it about an hour ago.
Yeah,
When that's not
that's
much.
2 hours worth.
Okay,
No,
all right, 15, and also
not enough.
he wants to also raise it to like 50 billion tons of it or something like that. I mean, just a huge amount.
But something to be fun, and I don't know the logistics. I don't know that they can get that much there, not
Yeah,
depending on all the other needs.
it's that liquefied natural
Because, like I
gas.
said,
Right.
we're going to have to make up 25% of that gas
Mm-hmm.
for the fertilizer. So
Yeah.
that's going to have to go somewhere else. So how are they going to load it up and
Yeah.
without the increased infrastructure?
50
It's
billion
a
cubic
challenge.
meters. A challenge. Well, they make it challenging for themselves. I've made that quite clear on my show that I think that one of the biggest mistakes Biden has made. I'll do the politics. I know you were kind of reluctant to jump into the political side, but I'll do the politics. I think he's done a terrible job on energy because not so much of the restrictions on drilling, which I've talked about at length, but also uh, the fact is that they will not allow for any kind of infrastructure building. No, not just pipelines, but any kind of facilities or refineries or storage units or whatever you want to talk about. And this, by the way, this deal is going to be 50. So I'm reading here 50 billion cubic tons of liquefied natural gas at least through 2030. Now, here's another thing that kind of bugs me about sending all that liquefied natural gas to European Union. They're particularly Germany. They're the ones who shut down their nuclear capacity to buy Russian gas. They themselves did this to themselves in many cases. And so, they curtailed their own energy production to buy from the Russians, and now that that's been banned, we in the United States are gonna have to make up the slack, which is gonna increase
Well,
costs for us.
we haven't increased our production or distribution to make up
Right.
the difference for what we're going to
Mhm.
ship to Europe. Or again, I keep
Mhm.
going back,
Mhm.
how much nitrogen, how much natural gas is made in nitrogen, and
Mhm.
that's brought out by pipelines.
Right.
So it's all say that yeah, we're going to do this. I think we're all going to have these short-term spots for a long time.
More I think so. I think that the inflation, if they think they're gonna be able to bring it down anytime soon, there's a lot of factors that are working against it. And I guess what I get a little bit bothered by is, Putin and his not Putin, Biden and his administration put Putin price hike. That's their new, hashtag, as if everything was fine. But we have curtailed our own abilities to respond to these kind of things through our policies and through some bad economic occurrences and COVID. And also, you talked about the weather. I mean, when's the last time y'all had adequate rain out where you're at?
We're extremely dry here.
Mhm.
Last year we were 8 inches below the annual rainfall,
And you don't
and
have
I
a
haven't
high at
had
all.
measurable rain.
Hmm.
No,
Yeah.
and yeah, we're about 26, 28 inches a year, and we had 20 inches last year, and
Hmm.
I haven't had more than a half inch of rain since last October. So
Well, we had our first
we're
one
going to
here
have
in
a
a
short
while.
crop in this area.
Yeah, and it also accelerates the need for go back to the fertilizer issue. By the way, when most people think of fertilizer, they think, tender feet like me out here in the suburbs think of, spreading it out like, and is it, what form does fertilizer take? Is it liquefied or is it granular?
Both.
Hmm.
There's different kinds, and
Okay.
there's also pre-plant you can put down anhydrous ammonia, which is a gas,
Hmm.
and you can do that pre-plant, but you cannot put that on top of a crop post application, and it either has to be liquid or
Hmm.
granular. But it's pretty well the same way. It's sprayed or spread on.
With wheat prices at $9 a bushel, is there anybody that's benefiting from this?
Well, if we make a crop, it will be.
What about the
But
middlemen?
you know, well, the middlemen make their own. They get their money first.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah. Yeah.
so you know. Right now, at nine, there's 61 pound loaves of bread and a bushel of wheat. So just
Hmm.
divide 60 into $9, and that'll tell you how much wheat is in a $3, $4 loaf of bread. So
Right.
our inputs are one of the least that
Right.
goes in there.
Now,
And
you're
and
yeah, and it's happening in the cattle side of your business as well. Now, you primarily focused in the last
yeah,
few years on
now
raising cattle.
that's that's something that's been building for 20 years. What's happened on the cattle side
Mm-hmm.
over the last 20 years, over several administrations, the packing capacity of the uh, beef industry has been consolidated into four large companies.
Mm-hmm.
They control 85% of the meat sold in the United States.
Including the biggest one is the
And
Brazilian
what
bunch, isn't it?
JBS, that's
Yeah,
correct. That's the
right.
biggest
Yeah, and they're
one.
foreign owned.
And what, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And for the last year, uh, beef futures for fat cattle has traded in about an $8 range.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at $1.34 to $1.42 has been the fat cattle, and I think you
Mm-hmm.
know that the price of meat has changed
Oh yeah.
significantly in the stores
Oh,
more
you
than
betcha.
that type of range. You know,
Mm-hmm.
that's what is that about a 10, 12%
Mm-hmm.
difference. So that's the deal. People, I don't think a lot of people understand, and it's even hard for me to wrap my head around that meat and commodities are not marketed like they taught me in economics back in my days,
Yeah.
where you put all these parts together and you get an item and then you take your cost and you add your what you want for your profit and that's what you make. In the beef world, the stores sell the beef for what price it'll move. So
Mm-hmm.
they'll feature beef, they'll price it. It has no there's no the cost of the beef has nothing to do with the price, which doesn't
Mm-hmm.
make any sense. Then the beef packer, he bids on cattle that he can get to slaughter. And a
Mm-hmm.
lot of them even own their cattle, and some of them own as much as 70, 80, 90% of the cattle they slaughter. They own them for whatever it is so they can make sure their beef
Mm-hmm.
line's full. So they're paying beef for what they want to give, and then they turn around and selling beef for what they want. And the
Mm-hmm.
cost and it has nothing to do with it. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what the deal is. It's supply and demand, and pure and simple. It's not necessarily the cost plus that most
Mm-hmm.
people think in economics.
And because somebody outside says, "Wow, this would be a great time to get in the cattle business." Cattle, meat prices so high, but what they're paying you, from what you told me before, hasn't changed much at all for what your
Well, it's
cows
actually gone down. It's
actually gone
gone
down.
down since the beef has gone up.
Really? So they're paying you less per
And you
pound for
get
your calves.
they're paying us less than what they did. And there's other factors that affected me is if we have a snowstorm, an ice storm, or
Right.
as you and I were talking about, you have a fire in a packing plant that they can't process the animals.
Like
They
they
can't
happen in
process
Dodge
them. They
City.
don't own them. So
You told me about Dodge
yes,
City 2020, about 2 years ago, roughly around this time. They had that
yes,
fire,
yes.
and
They had a huge fire, and they didn't have nowhere to go with the cattle, and therefore the market just dropped out of the bottom. But you guys didn't see it in the. They were paying substantially less for cattle, but it wasn't showed up in the store because people are still buying beef, and they price it to what people pay for it.
yeah, and
So
yeah, and
it's a real complex issue.
mm-hmm,
But when you've got the four big people say, well, we got a lot of competition, we compete with each other,
yeah,
and I'm
but
sure they do. I mean, the
mm-hmm,
profit is there, but when you've just got four people making up the price, you have a lot more. People know what each other's going to do or what they're doing. They
mm-hmm.
understand, so it's a lot more of a rigged environment than it should be.
Well, I'll go to Sam's or HEB or City Market here in town, which is a smaller grocery store, but they're competitive in their meat prices. But they all are higher. They've gone down a couple of dollars a pound on the higher end cuts, but that doesn't mean because the supply has increased. I think it's because the demand's decreased because chicken prices have gone up and pork prices have gone up at the store because people are switching to
Right,
an alternative
right.
protein source. But
Yes.
as far as
But those
they,
are, as we just talked about with
yeah,
this Ukraine deal and the
hmm
lack of grains coming out, that's a lot more hog and chicken feed than it is cattle feed that's coming out of that area. So you're fixing to see hog and chicken
oh boy.
uh, feed costs go up, and those meats will go up also, besides
And
beef.
also, the days the cattle drive are long gone. With diesel going up in cost, you have to transport these cows, and
Yes,
you sell yours in
and feed
Vernon,
them.
right?
They
Yeah,
they want fed every day. They're
yeah,
standing there waiting on us. So
yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're paying. I paid. I got my tractor yesterday, and I paid
Mhm.
$467 for diesel for farm diesel, which
And
is
that's
without the
tax
tax on it.
exempt, right?
That's right. That's
It's not
road
taxed.
road tax exempt. Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Wow. And
Road tax
so
exempt.
469. And so yeah, and you got to transport them. You sell them in Vernon, right? Mm,
That's where I go. Local
yeah.
auction burn. Yes.
Yeah, around this area.
Yes.
And so you just they don't pick up, do they? I mean, they go take them to Vernon. You sell them at the auctions.
Yeah. Yeah. We haul them down there. Yeah.
All right. So there's all that
Yeah. But
plus
either way, somebody has to pay for that fuel. Even if they come get them, somebody
yeah.
has to pay the fuel. But the cost of just real quick, a cow eats
Mhm.
about 3% of her body weight a day.
Mhm.
1,000 pound, 1,500 pound cow eats 30 pounds a day. 30
Mhm.
cows, that's a ton a day.
Mhm.
Truck holds about 30 tons. So just figure out hauling that feed back and forth to the cattle, feeding
Mhm.
them. It just takes a lot of energy, and that's a lot of your energy.
Mhm.
Energy is a driver for most of our production problems, both fertilizer and cost.
Well, in the article I keep referring to, they have a interview with a cattle producer down in South Texas, down Corpus area, and he talks about that because of the diesel and because of the grain costs, he's going to probably have smaller cows, and they're not going to be as big. I mean, they're not going to be malnourished, but they're not going to be built up like normally
Sure.
happens. And either he's going to have
Well, you
to
don't have the fertilizer
right.
to improve your pasture, so
Mm-hmm.
therefore
Mm-hmm.
A, you're going to have smaller animals, or B,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to have to buy more feed to make up the difference, which is more
Mm-hmm.
expense, which is more energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he's saying that, he's not going to be able to sell at the same weights that he's accustomed to. So, so he's getting less per cow than before. And do you see that happening with your production, your outfit? I mean, you have
Yeah,
what?
it's just
Yeah.
exactly what I'm. Yeah,
Yeah.
our expenses are going up, but we don't have the ability just to
Mm-hmm.
say, okay, we got a 5% rise, we're going to raise our prices 5%. We don't have the ability to pass that
Mm-hmm.
on.
You just have to
But the
eat
packer
the
pays
cost,
what?
whatever. And here's another thing. One
Yeah.
before we go to the commercial break is the fact that back in when we were both younger men, as a teenager, young men, there were meat processing plants in most towns. Like Hobart had one, and our
Yes.
dads would
Yes.
have access to beef. They'd have a calf slaughter. They had meat lockers,
Yes.
and they could have. That's gone pretty much, isn't it? The local packer.
Yes. Yes. So regulation, labor, all the things that we've talked about, it pretty well
Mm,
drove that out, and the bigger the efficiencies of the plant. I mean, you've got one of those big plants up in Kansas can why they kill 3 or 4 cows a minute.
something like
You've
that.
got huge efficiencies. You got lots of people, but you got huge efficiencies, and those are hard to compete with. But I don't. That's not where. That's the one time I don't know that efficiency is the best. I would like to go back. In fact, I
I
think
know
that's
what
the
you
only
mean.
way we're going to break this deal. Do you have to go to a break or something?
No, in a minute, I'll let you know.
Oh, okay.
Go ahead,
I
continue.
thought you said,
No.
but
I was.
that's the deal is we need to break up this mononistic hold these four Packers have on us.
Yeah.
It's easier to say than do because if you wanted to build a small packing plant,
Hmm.
say the size of your house, 2,000 square foot packing plant, you're looking at million and a half investment.
That's just to
And
get it together. Then you have all the
yeah,
regulations that go with it and the labor issues that go with it.
yeah, and the labor, getting labor to work in them. I mean, those
Yeah,
people work hard,
yeah.
and
Cutting meat's a hard way to
the
make a
packing
living.
plants they're paid they're paid well, but they work hard, and
Yeah.
it's dangerous. There's lots of sharp knives. So
No, there was a really good article I read. I want to say in Wall Street Journal about 2 or 3 months ago that had like a undercover, not an undercover reporter, but an investigative reporter went in and was hired as a meat cutter at one of these plants in Kansas, and it was tough. I mean, there was no breaks. I mean, the meat's coming down the chute, and they're having to cut like
mhm,
as fast as they can. That's why you see all these injuries, and so you have a lot of OSHA related issues. You got a lot of environmental
right,
related issues. So even if you wanted to start your own plant there in Kiowa County, it's pretty much a non-starter because even if you had a million
yes, it
dollars,
costs.
even if you had the money to start it, it'd be almost impossible to maintain it. And because in
Yeah,
part because of the heavy duty regulation, which the major packers, from what you tell me, they're all on board with that. hey, we're fine with OSHA, we're fine with the EPA because it pretty much keeps packers at the lower levels out of the business, right?
Well, all they got to do is just increase chain speed. I mean, okay, we lose two OSHA lawsuits. We'll just make these other guys work harder
Boy,
because I mean that's just the way it is.
it's the way it
But
is.
if we could, if you could take the smaller packers and where they may have to charge a little more, but their meat would be the same, and it's not the margins going to the bigger packers because of what they're doing. It,
Hmm.
it would not be that bad economically. It wouldn't make the cost of food going up. It would
Hmm.
just give people more of a place to sell. But
Yeah.
it's something that's going to take something that's going to take government action. And I'm not saying more laws.
Hmm.
There's plenty of laws. I mean, this didn't excuse me happened
Hmm.
in Chicago back at the turn of the century, and they started the Stockyards and Packers Act, which was to break up the big. Back then, it was Hormel and
You talk about
Swift
around
and
1900 or so?
yeah, it's around
Yeah, right, right,
1900s,
right.
and labor issues, and they broke them up. We have the laws to do it. We don't need more laws. We just need to enforce the laws of God,
Yeah.
which
Well,
is
I'm gonna
hard to do in the government. Isn't it?
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I'm gonna jump to the second round of ads. I'm gonna get on the other side, and talk about what you think is gonna have to happen to solve or at least make this problem less of a problem. And, a couple of things in the last let's take the Biden and the Trump administrations because we've talked before, and you have, criticisms on the way both those gentlemen have handled some of these ag issues. So, but anyway, let's go ahead and do it. Otto over at our place. I tell you, I've talked to him before about what we're talking about right now. If we were talking about the cost of food, it's a real issue for him. He's doing his dead level best to keep it together, but they're having him, cut on other things or curtail some other opportunities or the menu a little bit because it just the cost of food at the wholesale level is so expensive. So I appreciate what Otto does. He really does his best to keep it affordable. It's a family restaurant, and it's my favorite place in town. Because it's very friendly. Next time you're down here, I need to take you to meet Otto. He's quite the character. But thank you, Otto, for all you do. Thank you to sorry, cough. Chris over at the Wild Cigar Bar. I'm going to take you that as well. Chris Notaboom has. You've heard his show. You listen to the show fairly regularly. Wild Cigar and Cultures got a big grand opening a week from today. They also have a great humidor. Next time you're down here, I'm going to take you over to. We'll have a drink of smoke over at Wild Cigar. It's a really good
I'll
place.
definitely let you buy me a. I'll
Uh,
let you definitely buy me a cigar and a whiskey. I'll let you do
well,
that.
well, that's the place to do it, and it's high quality stuff. I mean, Ben, my son-in-law, really likes that place too because it's really hard to find a good cigar these days, and he's got a good one going on. It's over on the Standard. Also, thank you to Antonio Bassano and point of sales operations he has with proactive payment solutions. If you have a mobile business, if you have a business at like the farmers market that's coming up a week from tomorrow, which everybody's looking forward to. Proactive Payment Solution can help you with your point of sales, help you with the processing, with the rates, will help you with getting the system set up, which is the best system for you. So talk to Antonio at proactivepaymentsolution.com and he'll help you out. Also, if you want to turn your home into a smart home, Beagles Technology Solutions, he can help you to make your home a smart home, put everything on your phone practically. Also can help you with aerial drones. Y'all use aerial drones in farming?
Yes.
Yeah, for videographing. I keep saying the word wrong. Videographing all
Yes.
this.
Well,
Yeah.
we'll fly a drone. We'll fly a drone over a field, and you can see from the top where the places need more fertilizer, and you can adjust your spreading as you go to hit those places with more fertilizer to
Hmm.
make it more efficient.
Yeah, and you just
As an example,
yeah,
there's
well,
lots
that's
of
I'm sure
examples.
there's a lot. Or you could check out if you have a big spread. You can check out you know the, how your cattle are doing and stuff like that. So I don't know how many farmers are listening right now. I hope a bunch eventually. But if you want to, local guys want to use Payne Beagles, he's a good man. So 817-944-3572 or beaglestech.com. Also, Tiffany Griffin at locallifetx.com. Next week, Local Life will be coming out. Well, actually 2 weeks. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. This is the 25th. First week of April comes out the April issue. It's always great. It's an Easter related issue. Local Life magazine. It goes to 30,000 homes, 110,000 people. I advertise in it. She's well worth the money for advertising because it advertises exactly to who you're marketing to. And then you got Live 365, Burleson Radio, playing my favorite hits, doggone it. So your voice, your station. If you want me to play some songs, let me know. But I've kind of cut down on the playlist to kind of make it a little less broad because I think it was trying to do too much. But anyway, it's just me. Back to the important stuff. Now, we were talking about the Trump administration. You said that a lot of farmers think that Trump is their man. I mean, when I go up there, it is red country, and he
Yes.
overwhelmingly won the farm vote. Has he been? Was he that great for the farmers? Yeah, sorry.
Depends what you're talking about. Yeah,
Yeah.
talking about what you're talking about. Most of the people like Trump here because they like most of his policies.
All right.
But he also did some things that hurt us a lot, and one of them is, and it's more complex than make a 1 minute deal. Was his
Mm-hmm.
trade war with the China?
Mm-hmm.
Uh, did China need to be dealt with? Well, I think we all thought so.
Yeah.
But it also has hurt us and started the downward road that went into this
Mm-hmm.
administration, and what we're looking at now when you put a tariff on goods, you can't get it. And right now we're missing a lot of parts. We can't get
Mm-hmm.
parts. We can't get. I'm having trouble getting plastic bale twine,
Mm-hmm.
as an example. And who would think that until you realize that it's all made in China?
Yeah.
Uh,
You were telling me you
the baling
about
wire.
that. Yeah, baling wire. You also told me like one of your vehicles, your tractors broke down and it took you like 3 weeks to get the part. It's about
Yes,
2 3 months
yes,
ago, and
yes. The computer chips
yeah.
and of course that's another thing. What I was going to say is,
Mm-hmm.
uh, you talked about what could fix it, and I guess my general philosophy is big is bad, and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if it's a big company or a big government or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you can't get these parts because they're overseas. These tractor builders build these tractors, and you have to do them to get the efficiency because of what is needed because we can't get labor.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just like me, I'm a small farmer. Both of my kids are not Aggies. They have made careers other places, which I'm very
Mm-hmm.
proud of. But when you're by yourself, there's just so much you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And from the can't getting bale twine to now, a lot of the tractors won't let us work on our own. Tractor manufacturers won't let us work on our own equipment. They want to make it proprietary because you have to have a computer to read what's wrong with you, and therefore you have to go through them. The old day
Mm-hmm.
of going out there with some baling wire and a bolt and bolt it together is over. And
Mm-hmm.
we continue to fight those issues along with the supply issues that started with Trump, and the meat consolidation has been over the last 20 years. A packer consolidation. It's just the
Mm-hmm.
government has allowed the big to get bigger, and their policies fit the bigger producers, while the other ones who want to try to do things more efficient, more traditional, cannot compete.
What would you say Trump did that did help the farmers? Do you think? I mean, you were telling me about something in particular that most people really
Oh,
don't.
well, one thing is the WOTUS. The
Yeah,
WOTUS,
right. That's what I'm talking about. The waters.
waters of the U.S.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no
waters
one.
of the U.S. still that come out of Obama,
Mm-hmm.
and that was could have had a huge impact if it went through. And what the basis of it was, the United States has always ruled that a water body that's big enough to float a steamship. So this is how long we're talking about. We're talking about from the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Water body that's deep enough or big enough to float a steamship is part of the waters of the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
and therefore regulated by the government. So if it's a lake that'll float a steamship, that is water that's regulated by the government. Obama, by one simple stroke of one of his administrators, said it's waters that float a steamship or the streams that supply that water,
Mm-hmm.
which basically became, water runs out of my terrace ditch into a bar ditch into Otter Creek over here by me that runs
Mm-hmm.
into the North Fork, which runs into the Red River,
Mm-hmm.
is now all covered by the government.
So just a little
So
creek will
therefore,
do it. We fall into that.
well, coming out of my bar ditch, if it
Yeah.
if it feeds the creek,
Uh-huh.
therefore that would become under regulation of the United States government. And so if they went out there and you were spreading had a flat farm that you were spreading fertilizer on, but it had a little bit of water run into the ditch, then they would have the authority to tell you how to do it. So that was very scary to us that it was such a huge government overreach, and there's only three words in a sentence.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they changed that. Luckily, they've got that killed, and they fought it with Obama, and then Trump reversed it, but it still raises its hand every once in a while. And
Well,
of course,
and I've read that the
those who
Biden.
wanna regulate the water.
Well,
That's power.
well, and Biden is talking about doing that, and I've seen that. But what I don't really think people think along those lines. They think, if you had a heavy rain, God willing, you need one, and you had like a pond form down at the south end of your field, it's now government property, is it not? In a sense,
That's correct. We're government under government regulation. Yeah,
right,
it's under government regulation.
right, and if
And
it,
what if I had a big rain? And here's
mm-hmm,
here's just a simple example,
mm-hmm,
but it could have huge consequences if that went through. I have a big rain. We do what we can. We do as much as we can to
mm-hmm,
control the water, keep erosion back. But
mm-hmm,
say I had a terrace break. We had a huge rain, and I had a
mm-hmm,
terrace break, and it formed a lowland water place because the terrace broke. And
mm-hmm,
I didn't get out there, and then there's some ducks sit on it. Well, if a
mm-hmm,
duck sit on it over like a week, then that becomes wild wetlands, and then I'd have to get a permit from the government to drain it back
mm-hmm.
because it's wetlands,
Yeah.
because it's under the waters of the U.S. I
Hmm.
mean, it's you think that can't happen? Well, it's happened. There's
Well,
guys that's drained farmland, and they filed lawsuits on it. So
well, good heavens! But so Trump did help you in that regard. I'm not. We've
yeah,
talked at length. I'm. When it comes to Mr. Trump, people listen to the show regularly know I have my issues with him. But one of the things that really did bother me was what we were just talking about. And see, most people wouldn't know that. I didn't really know that until you brought it to my attention. I mean, nobody's going to, around here, us suburbanites aren't going to think about that. But there you are. And I guess in a way, if I have a heavy rain and it gets water in my ditch here, it's, under the waters of the U.S. No, because
well,
it's drained.
and here's the fallacies, and because we
Hmm.
can't, people just won't.
Hmm.
Nobody will be truthful.
Hmm.
There's more farm chemicals,
Hmm.
herbicides, fertilizer that runs out of Dallas Fort Worth and never runs off all these farms.
Hmm.
That's sprayed onto lawns,
Hmm.
sprayed onto used around buildings in
Golf
metropolitan
courses.
areas.
Yeah.
Well, this for the use of deal. So everybody
Hmm.
goes, oh, we don't want them spreading poison, and we don't need to be. And I agree with that, but they don't they don't make the comparison that it happens other places too. It's just like here, but they use that, they being that segment of the population, use that as a
Hmm.
hammer to try to get regulations on
Yeah. Well,
it.
I could
So if you're
imagine.
going to do that,
That.
then you need to regulate
Yeah.
how much fertilizer is sold in the city to do the lawn. But my point being is
Hmm.
the problems are more complex than you say. Oh, let's just pass the law. Let's do that. And again, I said three times or four already that
Hmm.
we've got the laws. Let's just enforce what we got. But we don't need more. And that water of the U.S. law was a huge overreach.
Right.
And a lot of people like Trump, and a lot of people like Trump because of his policies, and a lot of people don't like Trump. I mean, that's
Hmm.
I'm in
Yeah.
that boat, and
Yeah.
so many of our last
Hmm.
elections have been not who we're for, but who we're against, right?
Right. Oh yeah, I've brought that up many times, so quite often. Is the
Yeah.
Biden administration being more of a hindrance, or not? Or are they affecting y'all at all?
Well, they're affecting us huge because of the energy and
Right.
inflation policies.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, are they making it harder to like use fertilizer and maybe pesticides or whatnot? Or are they making it harder for you
Mhm.
to operate within their guidelines?
No, I can't say that right now.
Yeah, it
I can't say
hasn't.
that
So you
definitely.
haven't seen a
But
tremendous change.
I would say that most of us don't trust Biden.
Hmm.
I mean, that is really true. The reason he hasn't gone to us, he just ain't got around to it
Well, he's busy. Give him time.
yet. Yeah.
Okay, we're coming in towards the
No,
end of the.
I can't say there's much difference,
Hmm.
the no, I can't say
Well,
that. But
okay.
again, I would say most of us don't trust him.
Well, it
But
also usually these impacts are felt not in the first year, but after a couple of years because it does take time to put all these things through. But uh, we're getting close to the end here. You've said it more than once that if we enforce the laws that we have already, some of this would be taken care of. But I have a hard time believing that's going to happen. I would imagine those 4 packers have tremendous influence over certain segments of Congress, and certainly within their
Well,
states.
JBS is the largest packer in the world, and both their owners have been in the pen over at Brazil. So even though that it's run by criminals, they still can run the company. So I think, yeah.
Well, that's nice to know, and it also talking about just beef packers. I mean, I wonder how much of a market Tyson dominates in the chicken markets, and probably in the hog markets. There's probably similar oligopolies
Well, the
as this
largest
one
hog producer is owned by the Chinese.
by
The
the
largest
Chinese.
hog producer, Smithfield Farms, is owned
Hmm.
by the Chinese.
Yeah, that's why I don't buy Smithfield Farms. Of course, I may end up be buying it and not even know it. If they produce that much of the hogs, but
You are. They're
yeah.
they're 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 killing the carcasses and hauling somewhere and cutting them up. Yeah.
Hmm.
So
Well,
you're buying Smithfield somewhere.
what do you see in the next year or so? Is it if you guess if you were right, you'd be a genius of sorts. But do you see any of this getting better?
No, that's going to get worse.
You think so?
Like I
Shipping.
said, we're going to make a decent price, but
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to have anything to sell, and all our costs are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And so, about the time we get all the crop inputs in at the high price, then the market's going to break,
Mm-hmm.
or something will happen, and then we're going to be caught. So and until they get the supply chain
Mm-hmm.
fixed, I just do not. I just see a lot more turmoil, a lot more risk.
How would it myself and other people like myself as a consumer? What would you advise us to do? Buy now and freeze it, store it, or just budget
Well,
differently? Change your tastes.
I think no,
Mm-hmm.
we need good size.
Mm-hmm.
The reason meats are so important to the consumer is it's such a good source of protein and for
Mm-hmm.
health and stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, you've got it's a readily protein that the whole world needs,
Mm-hmm.
and we're lucky to have it here. So you need to continue to buy the protein. I just think you're going to have to be a lot more penny wise, and of course, people with families are going to have to eat in more. I think we're going to have to go in more of that deal, and I hate that. I hate that because who doesn't like to go out and eat? Who doesn't like a good restaurant?
Yeah.
But with those restaurants fighting the supply chain and plus the labor chain, it's going to be hard to be
Mm-hmm.
cost effective, especially with the family that's now going to have to pay a lot more for fuel,
Right.
a lot more for everything else because of inflation.
I mean, for you to go get a
And
hamburger is
yeah,
what, a
I
2 minute
think
drive. It's not like down the street for
yeah, I
you.
got to drive 30 miles to go get a hamburger.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Well,
unless I cook it myself.
I,
And even sometimes I get tired of cooking myself, and it's worth driving 30
yeah.
miles
Well, I've been
for a good
thinking.
hamburger.
I'm thinking about we talked about this off the air. We talked about me getting a deep freezer and buying in bulk to save some money because as a hedge. But then maybe that also
Yeah,
has the means of triggering
you're
it.
gonna like I've said, these
Mm,
packers and these packers and these grocery stores, they feature stuff. They're selling it for what did they think they'd sell for. So you're really gonna have to watch your ads and pick up when they do feature meat because
mm-hmm,
they'll have a week that they'll have too many briskets or they'll have too
mm-hmm,
many short ribs
mm-hmm,
or something that then and you can buy it in bulk there and pay more attention. So I'd say pay a lot of attention to your meat ads
mm-hmm.
and when you can buy. Of course, not everybody, a lot of people, working people can't buy a whole lot.
Right, right.
If steaks $10, $12 a pound, I mean you can't buy 100 pounds. That's $1,000. That's a lot of money to a working person.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's a lot
But
of money to
but
me, and
you, but you
I'm lazy.
well, and anybody, yeah.
Yeah.
But some people can't even.
Well, I'm
But
gonna
you'll
run.
have to watch your featured ads and stuff.
Mhm. I'm
Go
gonna
to
run
farmers
through the ads real
markets,
quick. Yeah,
buy
farmers
local.
markets. Oh, well, we have one coming up here a week from Saturday, and it's great. And then one of the main sponsor of the farmers market who puts it together has localized local meat, pork and beef, and
Yeah.
it's people that buy it love it. I mean, it's cost competitive, and they say it's better meat. So there you are. Anyway, I'm going to run through the ads real quick, or the sponsors real quick, and then I'll give you the last word. What words of wisdom from the king of Kiowa County? Are you getting texts from the boys? Okay,
Yep.
I got one too. I don't know if maybe you got to let them watch this later. See their dad on international TV. But anyway, thank you, Daniel CrossFit Burleson. 317 Southwest Wilshire. Check out CrossFitBurleson.com for the training programs and the times and the memberships and whatnot. Thank you, Shandy, at the Stogstill Group. Get a hold of her if you want to move to this area because home prices are rising. So let her help you out, help get your foot in the door. Thank you to Rex over at the Russell Wealth Group, myfinancialbox.com. Hit the link, get to know what he's got all about, help you with your retirement plans, whatnot. Thank you to Kimmy at Optavia, 817-789-1622. Hope you're doing well. We'll see you next week for weight loss and weight maintenance, so lifestyle maintenance. Thank you to Gala over at Southern Gyms. Spring in the spring, you got Mother's Day, you got Easter, you got graduation, you got weddings coming up and things of that nature. So check out Southern Gym, fine jewelry, gemstones. She can help you fix it or find it. Thank you to Hotworks, Michelle. I hope you're doing well. You have a very nice place. I was very impressed with it, and I have 2 or 3 friends that are members of your place, and I was asking about that, and they just love it. So, infrared workouts, all various kinds of workouts. Something to fit your needs. Thank you to Otto at our place. Hope you're doing well. I'll be seeing you pretty soon. He'll be out there acting like a big shot, like he likes to do. Our Place restaurant on the highway in Ellsbury. Been there since 1986. Thank you to Chris over at the Standard, a Wild Cigar and Culture. It's a great place to go have a drink and a cigar and have a decent conversation. Not getting blasted out by heavy duty music or sports. I mean, they had the Final Four and they'll have the Elite Eight and all that other business on, but it'll be low key, so you can watch it and talk at the same time. Also, thank you to Antonio. I'm gonna have Antonio on the show in a couple of weeks. Um, he's going to be on April 9th. And so and he has a very interesting story, but we're going to Proactive Payment Solutions. You'll help you with your point of sales operation. So check out proactivepaymentsolution.com and he can help you with rates and programs. Thank you to Payne Beagles, Beagles Tech, help you with your aerial videography, can help you with making your home a smart home, help you with migrating your data from one computer to another without taking the risk of it getting lost. Thank you to Tiffany over at Texas, or I'm sorry, I say it right, Local Life Magazine. I was reading something else. Sorry, Tiffany. Hope you're doing well. I know your magazine's in the formative stages. This is the busy time for you. Local Life Magazine is coming out in about 10 days. You'll want to have it. You want to be part of it. So want to advertise with her. Right now, you can check out locallifetx.com and see what's going on this month with the ads and discounts, whatever. And lastly, Burleson Radio, Live 365, playing a very interesting collection of music. I invite you to listen to it. Okay. Tell us what you would want my vast listening audience to know about what's going on down on the farm.
Well, first, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to
Hey, it's no
be on
problem.
there. I really appreciate it.
No problem.
You have about half the listening audience of Roosevelt listen to your program, so we claim more higher percentage than anybody.
Well, that's probably true. Yeah. Okay.
So all 5 of us.
Yeah. Y'all 5 of you.
But
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
uh, did anybody pop to you a question that I
No,
can
not really.
answer for?
Not today. Normally, I'm on Thursdays, and so maybe if people have this kind of, I don't know how many would do it,
I
have a
just
part of the
wanted to be
schedule.
sure to.
No, I would have hopped in. Most of the people probably will be accessing this show either on Apple or Spotify or on YouTube later. That's particularly with the YouTube access. A lot of people, I've had several people tell me they prefer to watch on YouTube than in this format. So maybe they may have questions later, and I'll one of our conversations, I'll bring it to your attention. So, but anyway.
The deal is the people the numbers of people who raise farm products for consumption in the United States is about the size of Lubbock, Texas. So you're looking about 200. There's about 200,000 real producers, and I don't disparage anybody that has a garden, but I'm talking about what we would consider farmers, greenhouses, something. You only got about 200,000 of us, and I think we've got to do more. And it doesn't mean more money, and it doesn't mean more laws, but we got to be smarter to get a bigger diversity. We are too concentrated in agriculture with so many people, and bigger is better. And if we need, the answer to everything taught in ag schools, now is make it heap, sell it cheap.
Hmm.
If you got a farm and you need more farms. So if you get one farm bigger, somebody's loser.
Hmm.
And I think we need to be much harder on diversity
Hmm.
and and not so many people holding our food production in their hands.
Right. We
Or
talked
few
about
so few
that
people.
more than once about Cargill and others like that. JBS dominating
Yeah.
the market to the degree
Well,
that.
and our government is, and the Department of Agriculture is one of the biggest. They all give you the idea that they're all out here with the guy with a pitchfork and his wife standing out here,
Hmm.
you know, Rockwell-esque type
Yeah.
producers, but all the government stuff is either helping get bigger, more crop insurance, so therefore you can get bigger, or we can find you a new way to borrow money. And we
Hmm.
just need other ways.
Hmm.
We need to look at other ways in the existing structure to get more diversity, and that's going to take a lot of conversation with the government officials and make these decisions.
It's good.
Because
It's
like
good.
me out here in the middle of nowhere, I don't talk to anybody. I don't have a way to influence very many people. So it's got to come from the consumers, and they've got to
Hmm.
understand that their food supply
Hmm.
is pretty captive right now.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk. Maybe in a few months we'll talk some more about this stuff. Maybe as things change. But I appreciate you being on the show. I hope you kept
Well,
the
I
dogs.
appreciate you.
Yeah, you kept the dogs from barking. That's they must.
Yeah, yeah.
Donita must have put him back in the
Well, we
back
we
room or
we
something.
live we live on the Noah's Ark here with all the animals.
Yeah, well, that's good. All righty. Well, on Monday, I'm going to have Lisa Boltinghouse and Bianca Lowry from the Center for ASD. On Tuesday, Mayor Chris Fletcher. And on Thursday, Mary Slaney and Joni Van Noy of Old Town. So we got a real fun week coming up. All right. I'll see y'all later. Hope you catch this later on Apple, Spotify, YouTube.